Hi everybody, welcome to Life with Aneta. So today I am going to be telling you about my online event that's happening June 29th, 2024 from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can go on Eventbrite and purchase tickets. They are just $7. My event is going to be about surviving narcissistic abuse. As you all know, I was in a relationship with somebody and also married to somebody who suffered from narcissistic personality disorder that was very mentally, emotionally, financially, and physically abusive to me. And I had to live through that for years, even up till recently. I suffered physical abuse at the hands of that person and a lot of mental trauma, emotional trauma that I recently suffered. That I'm trying to get over. So sometimes you have to turn the pain that you're feeling into kind of like your own superpower to heal, to cope, to get through. So as I'm going through my healing right now and I'm trying to help others in the process and I'm trying to get myself back, I want to promote this event. And I hope that you guys will go out and support and buy tickets. You can go to Aneta's Events and Entertainment Incorporated. Don't put incorporated, just put INC, period. Again, that's Aneta's Events and Entertainment, Inc. You can go on there on Eventbrite and you can purchase tickets for the Surviving Narcissistic Abuse online seminar. I'll be hosting an online seminar on June 29th for 2 hours, telling you my story, how I am surviving narcissistic abuse, just how traumatic it's been for me, also helping others and giving tips to survive and thrive after you have been abused, because no abuse is okay, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, whether it's financial. No abuse is okay. And what I want to say to us people who have suffered abuse, it's okay for you to tell your truth. It does not matter if the abuser feels like they're going to say that you're lying. It doesn't matter if the people who support the abuser feel like you're lying. If you know your truth as a victim, as someone who has been abused, you have every right to tell your story wherever you choose to tell your story at. So never feel like you have to remain silent. For a lot of years and a lot of times, I would be silent when I would be abused by this person. I wouldn't say anything, or I would say something, but then I would feel bad because the person would make me feel bad for saying something. And then I go back and say, okay, you know what? Okay, I forgive you. I'm not going to go and tell this person, or I'm not going to go to the police, and I'll just we'll figure it out and sweep it under the rug. But I noticed that by me doing that, the longer I allowed that person to abuse me in different ways, over time it got worse. And I used to think that because this person was using drugs, that's why they were abusing me so bad in so many different ways. Mainly the most scariest part was the physical way of them abusing me. And what I learned this time around when this person abused me physically was it's just that person, because this person was sober, they weren't on drugs, and they still were very physically abusive to me. And for so many years, people didn't believe my story, and they were like, well, if the person is abusing you, why do you keep going back? But they don't understand what trauma bonding is. And if you look this up, people who have narcissistic personality disorder, like my ex that I was married to, and if you look these things up, it tells you, and even if you go to a psychologist or a therapist like I have been to, unfortunately, several times because of this person's constant abuse over the last 5.5 years, they will tell you that narcissists are good at manipulating a story, or if you tell what they've done to you, they'll turn around and they'll lash out on you. I think what's so sad is that a lot of times narcissists always find other people to believe the lie that you're the crazy person. The narcissist that I was married to, that I just divorced recently, he would tell people that I was crazy, I had a mental health condition, all this bizarre stuff so that people would not believe that I was actually being abused. And he would be out in public, he would go to work, and he'd be the most charming guy you could ever think of, right? And people would think he's like this sweet guy and he's just nice. And then he'd get behind closed doors with me and he'd physically attack me, he'd verbally attack me, he'd make me cry a lot. And then he wake up the next morning as though nothing happened, and he talked to me like he just hadn't abused me the night before. And it was such a toxic cycle that at this point I'm choosing to go permanent with making the disconnection that's needed, because I don't care what a person says, right? So my narcissistic abuser would say, well, if you wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have hit you. Or you talking to me, you push me so much by you talking to me that you make me hit you. That's scary for a person to say that if you have a disagreement with them or there's an argument verbally and you're not hitting them, they have a right to hit you if you are saying something that they don't like. I think that's very dangerous. That's very scary. And as me going through that, it has been very traumatic. Because I'm still healing, it's very hard for me to even talk about it sometimes, right? Because when you go through being abused and bullied so much, and the abuser makes you feel like no matter who you tell, no matter what you say, you'll never be believed. But you know that what's happening to you is happening, and they're trying to convince you that it's all your fault. It's not them, it's you. It's very terrifying. So for me, it's so important that I do this event to help people understand what it's like to survive narcissistic abuse. What would happen was every time I would try to get independent, get a job, leave the person, they would somehow always come looking for me, trying to find me, trying to bait me back in and make me think that they changed, and telling me all these stories to make me feel bad for them to come back and draw me back to them, right? Because I'm one of those people where I'm very kind and loving, and I try to see the best in people. I'm very forgiving, even when people have done the worst things to me. So this person would take advantage of that a lot and manipulate that fact. And then they would go and tell like their exes or tell their friends or people around them, that I was like this crazy mental health patient on the loose, and like I was doing everything to them and they weren't doing anything to me. And then they would take their phone and like record these videos and not tell people. They would record these videos of me, inappropriate videos at time where I didn't have clothes on. This person would record me and tell me they're going to show it to people. They would record my reaction to their abuse and then say, oh, look at that. You look unhinged and you look crazy. So if I play this in court for somebody, they're going to think you're crazy and I'm going to get away with whatever you say I did. And when you have a situation like that where the abuser is making you feel like nobody's going to believe you, you don't have a foot to stand on, even when you know you're telling the truth, it puts you in a very frustrating space. So as me being an open and honest person, and then when I talked to someone in my family the other day and I told them, I was like, I'm not okay. It's just so much happening to me and I feel helpless. My family member said, nobody has a right to tell you if you have a right to speak up about what's happening to you. You're being abused by somebody who has been doing this to you for years. And the fact that nothing is done is terrifying because everybody around you knows that this person constantly comes after you to try to be back with you just to abuse you. And I think this time it taught me something different about my abuser, who happens to be somebody I used to be married to. It taught me that I used to think, like I said in the beginning, that he was only abusing me because he was on drugs. But now that he's abused me and he was sober and there was no drugs involved, it shows me that he just enjoys abusing me because I know that he's very calculated with it. He'll abuse me, taunt me, and then when I respond in anger and frustration and feel the feeling of helplessness, he'll then say, I'm going to record you because you're unhinged and you're crazy. And a lot of narcissists and abusers, they do that to you. They record your reactions to their abuse, and then they go and tell people a different story and say that you're the crazy person, you're bad, and something's wrong with you. Or they'll blame you for things that you did not do and say that's why they're doing bad things to you. Or they'll make up a story and say, well, yeah, I'm going to accuse you of this. And then because I'm accusing you of this, that's giving me a right to do X, Y, Z to you. And you can't do anything about it because I have a right to do that. So I just want to share some of that information with you guys, as I am a very, like I said, once again, 100% honest, very much a truth teller. And I have a right to discuss my truth of being a victim of severe narcissistic abuse and physical abuse and emotional, mental, just traumatic abuse by one person in the last few years, repeatedly. So this event is very near and dear to my heart because it's from personal experience, and I'm hoping that my story will inspire others to leave a situation that's like that and to stay out of it. A lot of times abusers will play on the whole trauma bonding thing, as I explained, where it's not that you even love the person, it's just that you're trauma bonded to them because you feel like, where else are you going to go? This person has made you bond to them through trauma, so you're so used to it. That's all you know. It's like they have conditioned you to accept the abuse. They've conditioned you to feel like you can't get any better than them. They've conditioned you to feel like you're stuck in that with them. And that's not true. What I noticed to be true is that when I'm not around my abuser, my ex-husband that I was married to, when I'm not around him, I thrive better. I'm happier. Things go better for me in life. I have more peace. I don't feel like I'm being bullied and disrespected. I don't get called names. I don't get hit. I just have peace and happiness, and I'm able to thrive and feel safe and just be productive in life and have a good life. And a lot of times my narcissistic abuser will say, well, you're not really happy without me and you're always going to need me. And when that's the case, it will make you feel like this person has to be crazy. So the only reason why I got involved again with my estranged ex-husband was because he kept telling me like, oh, things are different, and I want you to come back, and we need to get remarried, and this is that and the third, right? And things are changing, and I'm just not okay being without you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is kind of, I don't know if I can trust him, because his pattern has showed me that every time I trust him and I go back around him, he hurts me in some form, shape, or manner, and he has no remorse for it. And this time I was like, well, you're not married to him anymore, so even if you go around him as a friend, it couldn't hurt that bad. Well, I came back around him, and I was like, well, okay, I'll be cordial, be forgiving, but I didn't realize that when someone is out to get you, when someone is your abuser, they don't change. They just change how they lure you back around them. And the more I studied this, because, I'm like one of those nerd people. I'm going to psychologists and therapists, and I'm going to read books, and I'm going to research, and I'm going to talk to people who's been through it and people who are more educated, and I'm going to find out what's going on. So a lot of people were like, basically, you're trauma bonded to him because he's been the person abusing you physically, emotionally, and in so many other ways, traumatically for years. So you're not going back to him because you feel like you love him. You're going back to him because he's conditioned you to feel like this is the only place that you can be, and that this is the best place, even when it's not, through trauma, because you're not healed from the trauma that he's caused. So basically, I have a trauma bond to my ex-husband because he's been so abusive to me, even up to recently, unfortunately. And I want to help other women. I want to help myself to heal, and I want to help other women heal so that we don't continue to go through the cycle. And I think what I want to say about law enforcement, depending on where you are, they take domestic violence serious in some places and not serious in other places. I can't tell you how horrified I am by the last state that I lived in, that I was reporting abuse that was actually happening to me. They never arrested my ex-husband, not one time. They didn't take it serious, and this abuse was actually going on, and it was so severe. Then I moved to a different state, and I'm going through domestic violence with him in a different state after I divorced him. Luckily, the new state took it serious, right? But the last state allowed me to be a victim of abuse for years. Even though I was reporting it, I was telling the truth. I never made up any story about my ex-husband. And this is 100% true. Everything that I'm saying on this episode. I've never once made a police report about my ex-husband that was not true. I have never went to a police department, wrote down a statement, and lied about anything that was done to me. It just comes down to, and I think that sets us victims up for failure and to be constantly abused when it's like, oh, well, if you don't have a bunch of bruising, that means it didn't happen. Or if you don't have this, that means it didn't happen. Or the abuser said they didn't do it, so they're free to go. I think we need to change the laws when it comes to domestic violence, because a lot of these abusers who are actually doing what they're doing are taking advantage and manipulating the law so that they don't go to jail, so that they can continue to isolate victims like myself and make us suffer because law enforcement does nothing. So I want to say, if there's any law enforcement that hears this podcast, and there's any lawmakers that hears this podcast, there needs to be strict rules, a big change when it comes to domestic violence, because us women, we don't want to just be calling the police because we have nothing else to do. If we call you guys and report that we are being abused, you need to take it serious, because it's the truth, and that is what's happening to us. And that is why us women who have been abused for years, we suffer so bad later and have to go through so much therapy, because the law and these courts, they don't take it serious. They allow these abusers to keep roaming. And yes, we can blame ourselves for staying, but you don't know what that's like when somebody has abused you and you have a trauma bonded to them and you are isolated with them. And it keeps happening. Nobody knows what that's like and the mental toll that it takes on you. So that's what I want to say. And before I get off, I just want to remind you guys, please attend my online event. It's going to be very, very important. You're going to learn a lot. My story is truly one for the books. It is my truth, my honesty, my transparency as a victim of abuse, as a woman in America, that the justice system has failed me for years. And I just want to help others, and hopefully, you know what, I'm not going to say hopefully, us as survivors, we are going to survive and we are going to thrive and we are going to be okay. So just remember, no abuse is okay. No matter how small, whatever it is, no abuse is okay. You do not have a right to be abused. There's nothing that your abuser can tell you or anybody else can tell you that makes it okay for somebody to abuse you. No matter what it says, you have every right to tell your truth as much as you need to, even if nobody believes you, because one day somebody's going to believe your truth that you are being abused, especially when you are telling the truth. So sending love and light to every survivor, every person who may be going through that right now, who's a victim. You can get out. There is help. And I want you guys to attend my event, Surviving Narcissistic Abuse. It will be an online seminar. You can get tickets on Eventbrite, June 29th, 2024, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you go on Eventbrite, look for Aneta's, Aneta, '(s), Events and Entertainment, Inc. Go on there, purchase tickets to support, and then attend the event. It's going to be something you do not want to miss. You guys have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to Life with Aneta.